Welcome to another Founder Wisdom podcast. We have Marcus Inman with us today. He's the CEO of various companies, still a business broker as well. So companies include CNH Holdings. He also has Elite Business Exchange. In the business brokerage field, also a veteran, right? So we're gonna have a fun talk today. Marcus, welcome to the pod. Tell us a bit more about yourself and what you're up to.
Charles, I appreciate that. And yeah, just staying busy, as you said. I've got a few companies. They all fall under CNH Holdings. Uh, I'm a veteran. I spent 23 years with the military. Actually, I retired from that job field, among a couple of others. Actually, um, so yeah, just trying to stay on point and get things done. The brokerage world has been very, very kind to me. So that's what got me where I'm at now.
Yeah, it's a cool business for sure. First question, I guess it's pretty obvious. Can you ever retire from the military? Doesn't isn't like some stuff that you saw or lived like stays with you up to this day?
Um, we could say that there's definitely those aspects that affect a little bit of life. But with that, those the experiences and the life that I had in the military actually helps me thrive and stay productive. It taught me a lot about resilience, making decisions under pressure, and pushing through times when things get tough. So, with the good, I mean, with a little bit of bad, there's definitely a whole lot of good. So,
Right. What situations did you remember managing back then that you were like, okay, this is next level stuff? And how are you taking some of the skills that you learned back then to what you do nowadays, which in comparison must feel pretty easy, right?
there are different types of. I think many things are simple, but they're not easy. I would say the military life is very simple, but it's not very easy. Same thing with business brokerage. Uh, Managing people is always a thing, especially with the military. A lot of my soldiers, especially as I carried on to my senior years in the military world, because it's a young man's game. Working with 18, 19-year olds, managing emotions and being away from home and high stress environments. Uh, that does translate well into working with businesses, business brokers, intermediaries, buyers, sellers. There's a lot of emotions and a lot of different things going on depending on where you sit in the room, and just that leadership and the examples that I was given at that time really helped develop me into a better leader and into a better human being and able to manage some of those moving parts, I think, a little better.
Yeah, I guess it's fear of the unknown, right? Like if you're an 18-year-old and you're thrown in a combat situation, even if you practice at the rifle range, like you will still have massive adrenaline and cortisol and pretty much freak out when the combat comes to you. And I mean, it's not necessarily the same when selling a business, but people have built these businesses for 20, 30, sometimes 40 years, and they've never sold, right? So it's again, the fear of the unknown, and they don't know what to expect. So a lot of your job becomes actually being some kind of psychotherapist, right?
I would definitely say that I think a lot of folks exiting feel the next chapter very clearly. They're taking a big vacation and traveling around. And one thing about people in business, entrepreneurs, CEOs, people that operate at a high level, that lasts for about 2 weeks before you get bored again and you're ready to move on to the next thing and really dive deep into that, because you can make all the money in the world and you can be happy, but you're not necessarily content because you know that you're an operator. So I think that plays a big role. I like to equate it as like great business owners exiting, like raising children. They built this from a concept, from an idea, and it would be like walking your child down the aisle to get married. You're handing that off to somebody else. So yeah, there's a lot of fear of unknown, and it's been a part of you, and it's been part of your being for years. So it's a very tough transition for a lot of folks. But part of it is managing expectations and emotions, and that psychotherapy does play a role. So playing with those 18-year-olds years ago probably helped.
And at this point, like, do you still have tips to keep your shit together, or it just it comes in naturally when you're faced with like a new and scary situation? You have mental models for that, or is it autopilot stuff?
Expect this kind of question. I feel like when things get very hectic, I slow down. Um, on the military, we called it slowing down the battlefield. And what that means is you almost gain more clarity because you can put the plan together to move on to the next step. So for me, when things get really tough, I actually scale back, not operationally, but thought process, and I don't let it overtake me. So, and then it's okay, here's the problem. How do we approach that solution?
I love that. Actually, that's a very good tip, and pretty much like a bunch of situations, right? Even when you get in conflict with some others, most of the time the problem actually doesn't need to be solved right now. You should probably take a step back, breathe, think through it, consolidate the information in your brain, and as time advances, you can make better decisions. I really like that. Why did you choose business brokering? Business brokering is pretty fun. A bunch of people would have chose, I don't know, like being a realtor or a broker, right? Like a home house seller and buyer, the intermediate between both. Why choose this one?
So it's an interesting story on how I got to that. I worked for I did veterans benefits after I left the military. I did veterans benefits. I did that for about a decade. My child happens to be a competitive soccer player, and one of the other parents owns four brokerages. And him and I are talking one day, and he's like, you've got that kind of personality. You would do well in this space. And I was like, well, I appreciate that. And it's interesting. I love business. I love the idea behind it. Said, but I don't have that kind of time. And I was like, I work a full-time job. I'm a dad. He goes, it's okay. If you close one or two deals a year, you can make an extra 30, 60,000 a year. And that caught my attention. And that's actually what kind of got me going was, my right place, right time, meeting the right person that I got along well with and still do. He's still a great guy that I speak to regularly. Just really put me in that position and introduced me to it. I got trained and I operated in it. And that's moved from only doing that into the software piece for business specifically. So
Interesting. I think you did some house flipping as well, right? And even before we get to
I have.
that, what was my city to go? I think that was your first official one.
Yes, it was. It was. So a friend of mine and I, this was back when, if anybody remembers, what was it called? Grubhub had started. It was before Uber Eats was a thing. What Grubhub was is they basically were the first official restaurant delivery service that was on a national scale. My city to go was basically like that. We had taken small local mom and pop shops and we started a marketing program with them. The business partner I had actually he had been a general manager over Pizza Hut, so he understood delivery very, very well. So we didn't handle the delivery piece at the time. I didn't understand the software that well, but what we did is we put the tools and the mechanisms in place for restaurants to take online ordering to manage those deliveries. Uh, we managed their websites, their social media. We put in the software that allowed all these things to happen, and it all filtered through us. It was a pretty interesting thing. It was my first dipping the toe in the water for working in technology and marketing and things like that.
And then you did the house flipping stuff, which is why I guess the other guy said that you were like kind of entrepreneurial, could be made for the brokering job. How did that go? Did that provide funds, or was it sometimes good deals, sometimes bad deals?
That actually, I still dabble a little bit in that. If the right deal comes across, I don't, advertise it or market it. It's not a, income stream per se. We focused on foreclosed properties to help folks either mitigate the foreclosure or we had purchased the property, flip it. So we did pretty well with it. It was a good business model, still is. I just don't actively pursue it as deeply because I'm focused on CNH.
Right. An elite business exchange like a meta play, right? So you were a broker yourself, you understood what it meant to be a broker. Now you're selling stuff to brokers, which is one of my favorite play, right? I've done it thousands of times with pretty much everything that I do. How did you get into this? Is this one profitable? How's that one going?
So Elite is where CNH kind of started. And what happened was kind of a fun story. I was sitting in a hotel room in San Diego, California on a Saturday, doing a business valuation on a multi-million-dollar company on a spreadsheet in March of, or not March, it was May of 2024. And I didn't understand why in the heck am I working for a top 10 brokerage firm doing valuations on a spreadsheet. So I said, there's got to be a tool, right? There has to be. It's 2024. And there are some tools, but they're not good tools. So then I thought, well, I'll just build one. And that's where all this got started. It went from build the tool to data infrastructure at this point.
This one, is it like SaaS model? I'm on the website here. I'm trying to see some pricing, 99 per listing, 297 per month. Is it like self-serve model, or you still involve servicing these actual clients?
So yeah, so we're in live beta. This is some beta pricing that you're reading right now. We're live beta for Elite. It is a SaaS model. What we've developed is literally the only one-stop shop a broker needs. So we can handle everything from the valuation through closing, and that includes CRM, that includes data rooms, sim builder, ad copy builder. It includes the entire broker workflow. So what started as a single tool to make my life a little bit easier has turned into building the entire workflow for a broker from the moment that they start the valuation on a business all the way through whenever they've successfully helped that seller sell their business. Um, so right now we're in live beta. Our public launch actually will hit into March. So that's whenever we will expand dramatically and just really focusing and working out the bugs. So it is a SaaS type model, very automated, meaning, for the valuation tool, a broker can literally scan and upload the tax documents they need for the valuation. Our system parses those records, pulls up all the data out, plugs it in. The broker goes through, verifies, answers questions associated with the business. It takes a process that a lot of brokers, it's a 3-step process for a lot of brokers. And I can literally sit down and do a valuation in a 15-minute phone call with my clients now. So we really streamline that.
And can AI do that, or we need a spreadsheet for it to be accurate, or at least can a well-prompted AI do that in Chat GPT style?
Well, can it? Yes and no. AI cannot tell you how many hours a business owner works in their business. There's base multiples, which AI can do the math. Anybody can do the math on that. The base multiple is kind of like the base model market piece. So a company may only be a 3x multiple. The adjustable piece comes down to the individual business, the geography, how clean are their books, the things that make that business unique. So AI can't determine those things. That's one side of it. The other side is, yes, you can use like Chat GPT to try to do that. The disadvantages you start to run into is, one, it's open source. So you don't want to put identifiable information into that. Like with our system, whenever these records are scanned, it stays in our system. Our system does not send out data. It only collects data. And without those adjustable pieces and knowing the right questions, I think our Q&A is something around 87 different questions that are asked to really lock in the valuation of a business. Without those questions being answered, it's going to be pretty off. And AI can drift. I think Harvard's computer science department said that AI is off about 30% of the time. So, you can't do it without a human in the loop. You can't black box it. That was one of the biggest realizations I think some tool folks out there figured out real quick in the brokerage world.
Right. With your business brokerage stuff, are you specialized in one specific type of business, and are you only limited to Missouri? You can't go outside of that jurisdiction?
So business brokerage as a whole, and just full clarity, I do buy side advising only at this point. I'm not doing sellers. And really, the buy side advising is in coordination with all the other tools that we've built. I'm not in competition with business brokers at this point. I'm not a sell side broker. A business brokerage itself is largely fragmented, and depending on the state you're in, depends on licensing. Currently, 42 states don't even require a license to be a business broker. So, um, being in Missouri, we don't require any specialized licensing. I can operate in all 37 states without licensing as long as there's no special registration with the state, meaning a specific requirement
Right.
to register the business.
And by your side, are you doing like a specific type of business, or just like all kinds?
So my buy side advisory is focused on already operational companies that want to move into a vertical that helps their current operations. For example, one of my clients has a management consulting firm, and we are looking at acquiring a staffing agency for him because the staffing agency, obviously, those folks could use some management consulting possibly. And the folks that he's already got under his management consulting business, he can now offer that consulting or the staffing agency as well. So I only work in verticals and with currently operating businesses. I won't work with anybody that has never bought a business before. And my business is referral only. I do not operate outside of I don't mass market. And right now I've got 16 clients on my roster. So that keeps me pretty busy for buy side.
Interesting. And what's the business model? They just pay you per hour, per package, or how does that work?
It's set up kind of like how a broker would operate in a way. So I do have a retainer just to start working with them. When we reach what's called the LOI in the acquisition process, I charge
Mhm.
another retainer. And the biggest reason is because that's where the real work starts, because I help guide them through the process from sourcing the businesses all the way through the closing of the business. So I'm involved in that whole process. And then I do a success fee at the end. So depending on how much they pay for the business depends on what the success fee is.
Got it. How does a day in your life look like with all these companies? Do you still have some military habits in you, waking up early and crunching a workout? What does your life look like?
So a typical day, I get up at about 5:15. I enjoy about 15 minutes to 30 minutes of silence. I got to get kids up, get them ready to go out the door for school, all of that. They get out the door at around 6:45. I go to the gym. There, maybe an hour or so. Then I come back home, shower, eat a little bit of food, and I sit down at the desk and just go to work and
Straight
keep
into it.
everything very lined out. So a lot of times it's 6 p.m. before I'm done, and still never done. So
What kind of content do you consume at the gym?
I just listen to the music.
And do you
I
read any books or listen to content in other scenarios? Like, how do you grow this brain of yours, other than talking to peer, of course?
other than talking to you, so no, I do quite a bit of reading. Sometimes that's what that 30 minutes of silence in the morning is sitting down and doing that. If as I mentioned earlier, I have a kiddo that's in competitive sports, and where he practices at is an hour away. So I'll kick on some podcasts that I like and resonate with me. One person I really like to listen to is like Gary Vaynerchuk. I like a lot of his marketing ideas, and just business philosophy in general. So I'll pick on a podcast when we're on our way to and from practices. Can't do it on game days because we have a pump up album we have to play on the way to a game. But
A pump up album. Tell me a bit more about
yeah,
that. Yeah. And how do you support your kid in competitive sports? Seems like it's a part time job in itself.
it feels that way sometimes. So I'll start with how to support him. I support, like right now he's injured. He can't play, but we've been to every practice. We've been to every game, even though it's an hour drive, because he looked at me and said he wanted to be there to support the team. So, he's 11, almost 12 years old. I think that one thing he learned watching dad be in the military a little bit and work the way I do is, hard work pays off and you always show up for your team. As far as the Pump Up album, I believe that started with a conversation we had about he was asking me what I did before I went on missions. And I was like, a lot of times what we'll do is we'll listen to this music that just gets our energy going, like positive energy. And one day we were going to a game and we just started going down a playlist and he picked some of the songs and I'll throw some old school songs in there for him. And it's turned into a ritual now. Prior to a game, we have to play the Pump Up music on the way to the game to put him in the right mindset and just have a little bit of fun with it.
Yeah, I love that. How do you tell him about your military experience? Like daddy went out there and took the bad guys out. How do you address like tough topics like that with him?
We don't really have a lot of those conversations. I don't think he's developed that Q&A pattern yet, I guess you could say. And when I am asked about those things is, my job, I was in the infantry, so my job was shoot, move, communicate. That's what I did in the Army. At the end of the day, I did my work and I came home. And that's how those conversations always go. We have had to have some real talks about, hey, sometimes dad gets a little agitated and, so if I say, hey, dad's not having a good day today, can we tone it down a little bit? But it's being open about things like that, saying, hey, sometimes it's okay to be agitated. Let's, support each other there.
Yeah.
But it's also, you always want to be the hero in your child's mind. So.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Marcus, thanks for being on, dropping that wisdom. Where can people find out more about you?
LinkedIn is probably the best place to find most of the information about me. So it's, just Marcus Inman, or you can look up Elite Business Exchange. I try to be on there. We'll start posting a lot more content come mid-March, because with our public launch coming in April, that's pretty apparent. But that's about the best place. Otherwise, you can find cnhstrategies.com or elitebusinessexchange.com.
It was Marcus and Charles for another Founder Wisdom